Welcome back to CVM Live. It's now time for the major stories in detail. Members of the Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, the PAAC, turned up the heat on Petrojam officials, delving into details about the actions of its chairman as it relates to the purchase of a plane ticket to London. CVM Live's Joel Croskill has the story.
Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, PAAC, performance review of Petrojam turned into a personnel review as questions were raised regarding the actions of the chairman in regards to the purchase of a ticket to attend a meeting in London.
There are some issues that have arisen recently in relation to certain expenditures for that chairman to be accommodated in London and so on. And we were told that he did not actually take up the trip to London and that the disbursements were in fact made for per diem, etc., which amounted to a sizable sum. Where are we with that?
General Manager of Petrojam, Floyd Grindley, sought to provide a response to Mr. Powell's question.
With respect to the expense, you question that was incurred by the chairman. The ticket was purchased by the chairman to travel to an overseas meeting that was attended by other members of the management team. He was not able to attend due to weather.
However, members of the PAAC were not satisfied with that response, going as far as warning Mr. Grindley about the repercussions of not being forthcoming with the committee. Mr. Jackson sought to get a more fulsome response from the Petrojam General Manager.
This is a case where the chairman, where this purchase circumvented the established process by the Ministry of Finance. And that is the reason why, from what has been told, there's a reimbursement from the gentleman to Petrojam. So obviously, from the get-go, it was circumvented. It's not so. Did you adhere to Ministry of Finance's procedure in the procurement of this ticket? Yes or no?
Well, obviously not.
No, yes, Mr. Grindley, did you or did you not? You don't have to check any records for that. Did you adhere to the Ministry of Finance's?
Member, all that Petrojam do is in accordance with the policies.
Joel Croskill, CVM Live.
Embattled real estate attorney Jennifer Mesado was dealt another severe blow today when damning evidence was presented in court amounting to an additional $60 million in fraud charges. Here's our reporter Vaughn Thorpe with that story.
There seems no immediate end in sight for the woes of the real estate attorney. Two other grim stories were presented in court Wednesday morning, which have served to only compound her problems. It is alleged Mesado on the 22nd of May this year sold property to Norman Horn, which she reportedly said was being done on behalf of the Sports Development Foundation. The complainant said she was given $28.46 million. However, soon after, it was revealed the lawyer had no authority to transact any business on the SDF's behalf. In the second matter, David Brooks, otherwise called Mavado, entered into a business transaction after she informed him she was overseeing the property for the owner who was incarcerated overseas. Mesado allegedly drew up the sales agreement on behalf of the owner, which was signed by Mavado, who paid her $30.7 million. It would later reveal Mesado was not hired by the owner to conduct any such transaction, and he was never incarcerated. Mavado has only recovered $7 million of his money, and after several attempts to contact Mesado, the decision was reached to go to the police. Mesado was on Wednesday granted bail in the sum of $5 million. She is to return to court on July 3. For CVM Live, I am Vaughn Thorpe.
And in this developing story, investigators now say the value of the cigarettes, which were found in boxes in a house in St. James yesterday morning, is much more than the $300 million originally stated. Curlin Brown has more on the bust, deemed one of the biggest on the island for many years.
Dart cigarettes, all 890 boxes of them found in an abandoned house in Westgate Hill, Montego Bay, St. James.
This fine is estimated to be about $300 million Jamaican dollars.
That's according to Jamaican Customs calculations. However, Carrera's Limited sees an even bigger figure, Information that's being processed by the Intellectual Property Unit at the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Unit, CTOC, headed by ASP Victor Barrett.
We are in consultation with carriers, and the figure now is $534 million, Jamaican dollars.
That is quite an amount, sir.
Yeah, very huge, and I think based on discussion with them also, it has been this seizure is the largest for within the last 20 years.
CVM Live understands the illicit cigarette left India destined for Belize, but were they really?
Illicit means that it does not carry the graphic health warning. For example, the images with your lips, with sores or your toes or stuff, so it doesn't carry any of those labeling. Secondly, it is not a brand that is registered in Jamaica.
The fact that it stopped in Jamaica, is there concern that chances are it may have made its way into our market?
Well, from our analysis, these criminals who trade in the illicit trade, what they do at times is to bring in the container to Jamaica with another destination, for example, using Belize, and then when it comes to the port now, then they find ways and means to get it off the port.
A 40-foot container was also recovered during the anti-narcotics bust, but in Lilliput, a community which borders St. James and Trelawney.
It could have been that it is not really for Belize, but it's for Jamaica, for them to smuggle the container from the wharf.
What are the likely charges for this one person in custody?
Well, we are doing some investigation now, but in terms of charges, the possibility of breach of the trademark, and the custom act, because for you to import goods in the country, you have to get permit, right? And if you don't get permit, then it's a breach.
The senior officer says this is big money investment.
For you to buy a 40-foot container with cigarette, it is not cheap, and for with some persons, and we are pursuing those leads.
Thanks, Curlin. Following the drug raid at a pharmacy recently, the Pharmaceutical Society of Jamaica is calling on pharmacists to play their part in ensuring the safety of medications used by patients. CVM Live's Vaughn Thorpe has this report.
With recent reports of a growing black market of fake medicines on the island, the Pharmacy Society of Jamaica is advising its members to be cognizant of the registered distributors and manufacturers of medical products approved to conduct business in Jamaica.
Remind them that there are medications out there that may be substandard medical products or unregistered or unlicensed medical products, and some of them as well are falsified or medical products.
Dr. Jones is imploring pharmacists to ensure medications are purchased from known reliable sources to minimize the risk of and exposure to these products.
We must always remember as pharmacists to inspect all the packages, the medication packages, for faulty seals and labels which safeguard these products. If we find that they are counterfeit products, then we should destroy them, or we should call in the police and ensure that they are destroyed.
Head of the CTOC's Intellectual Property Division, ASP Barrett, however, expressed concern about pharmacies in Jamaica selling counterfeit versions of drugs used to treat erectile dysfunction in men.
The erectile dysfunction drugs, the Cialis, our men, our boys are using these tablets, and they don't know the origin, they don't know the component in these tablets.
On the other hand, Dr. Jones highlighted popular classes of drugs that tend to be falsified,
including our analgesics or pain relieving medication, because generally pain is very popular and people will want pain relievers. So the producers of these products will go for things like the analgesics, the erectile stimulants, the antacids, those are medications that you take whenever the stomach burns or...
In the interim, ASP Barrett says the police are currently making further tests and investigations to identify other illegal pharmacy operations to curtail the multi-billion-dollar trade. Vaughn Thorpe for CVM Live.
And as police continue to investigate the shooting death of a man who had taken up residence in an undeveloped area in a St. Elizabeth community, there is a reminder this evening for residents to maintain vigilance in their neighborhoods.
For too long we have been accommodating strangers within our area, and we are not raising the concern to know why someone will leave from their area, come into our area, come live in a shack like this.
This age-old problem of unauthorized settlement, in this case, saw a man in his 40s, Franklin Augustus Bell, with roots in Manchester, living in a makeshift dwelling on land in Montpelier, St. Elizabeth.
The piece of land that was given to Jamaica Agricultural Society by Alpart for the showground. We are here now this morning witnessing a body, someone who is not really from the area. He's from Manchester, but I don't know what reason caused him to come and to live into that little shed that we are looking at.
Persons say he lived alone, but that wasn't always his status.
Well, me and him did married and live a house with 2 children, and he get an next child in 5 Spain. And I said, come here, him, and he live 4 people.
Bell, who was believed to have been a Mason, was obviously enjoying his freedom from everyone, including from his mother, Miss Inez.
1 to 10. And his brother died in the sea. But he come up, but he come to my house.
I was told that he has been taken up into custody on several occasions for maintenance. How true it is, I don't know. But if somebody is living in the area in a hut like this, it must raise some concern.
The police, who were alerted to loud explosions in the 3 o'clock hours of Tuesday morning and checked it out at about 7 when a passerby saw the body, say except for 2 9mm spent shells found at the location, nothing points them to why Bell was shot. This murder has, however, set off a buzz.
It is sad to see things like this happening within our era. This era from here right back into the back part of New Building are areas of concern where so many bodies have been found in these areas over a period of time. I don't know what could cause his death, but it's not looking good. But
We go overseas now, where crime rises in the Bahamas. Racist comments in Trinidad and a conclusion to the summit farther afield. It's Vaughn Thorpe with regional and international news.
Making the top regional stories this evening. In Bahamas, the country has recorded 6 murders in less than a week. The police say plans are underway to allay the fear of crime. The Bahamas Our News has more in this report.
Police will be on the streets of New Providence in full force in the coming days. This after police opened 2 more murder investigations overnight, following 2 separate shooting incidents less than 12 hours apart. Acting Commissioner of Police Emmerich Seymour said the killings have prompted changes in their crime-fighting plan.
We have, in fact, made some already, and of course, we don't want to televise what it is we want to do, okay? But be assured that we are paying attention and, of course, adjusting accordingly. And we're satisfied with the direction in which we're going.
3 of the 5 murders this past week, according to police, appear to be gang-related. The other 2, including the shooting death of a 65-year-old security officer at a junior high school this morning and a taxi driver as he arrived home over the weekend, the result of an armed robbery.
As you move about your daily chores, as you move and drive home, whether it's a day or nighttime, to pay attention to your surroundings.
And in Trinidad and Tobago, a medical intern has been removed from active duty after concerns raised by the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association over racist comments she allegedly made online. Health Minister Terence Dale Singh confirmed that she was removed from duty on Tuesday. The minister says a full investigation has been launched in the matter. And on the international scene, Donald Trump has declared that North Korea is no longer a nuclear threat.
Welcome back to CVM Live, your 90-minute news program. And of course, it's your time of the evening. Aside from the news, the panel discussion. So, On the topic of crime, the opposition has been long clamoring for an extensive and comprehensive crime plan from the government of Jamaica to replace the short-term zones of special operations and states of emergency. But at yesterday's sitting of Parliament, everybody, it could be classified as a rolling out, a declaration of the plans. And these plans were presented by the man himself, the National Security Minister, Dr. Horace Chang. So we have to ask the questions. How effective will these measures be? Is it more of the same? Is the government, are they doing enough? Are they satisfying you? Is it their main priority, keeping you safe at home, sleeping with your windows and your doors open? But of course, we have the man with the plan who can answer all of these questions for the people of Jamaica, the viewers of CVM Live on CVM Television, Dr. Horace Chang. Minister, we thank you so much for joining us here on our panel discussion.
Good to be with you. All right.
So we're going to get right into the topic. Now, you spoke in Parliament yesterday, restoring public order and safety.
Yes.
And the country is very excited about this, restoring public order and safety. And you told us in your speech that for the first time, we're seeing an alignment at the policy level against criminal activity.
Yeah, I think the country is, at the mood is for definitive, decisive action against criminal activity. I think there's no longer any ambiguity. And clearly at the parliamentary level, we have had the support of the opposition on critical issues. There might be fine-tuned difference at the program level, but we have to make a difference between what? The activity, action that you perform, as well as the policy level. Government is supposed to operate at the policy level, and then the plans are worked out with the security team elements, and there might be differences of views on how we operate. But I think we're at a good point where there's a national consensus of we need to deal with crime decisively. And thus I laid out a number of activities, which I say are planned activities rather than a crime plan.
Right, and tell us why you didn't want
them. Because when you say a plan, you tend to lock yourself into a little cubby hole with 5, 6, 7 things. What we're doing first is to see if we can invest in the security forces, the Army, MOCAs, and the JCF, enough to give them an architecture that has the capacity and the flexibility to respond to all aspects of crime in Jamaica today, which has become very heavy, very embedded, and beside public order, organized criminal activity, which is not as visible, but far more damaging to our institution, and maybe a bigger cause of homicide, which is what the community is upset about and is fearful about, is really embedded in our community in a very deep way and needs a strong, trained security team to deal with all aspects of that, and that's a very complex activity. This is why I want to get us kind of focused on a 1, 2, 3. It's a number of activities. So I've identified 6 of them really, not 5 as I said. Is the protection of our coastline is critical.
So does that fall under your category of operational strategies?
That's operational, but the government has to make the investment. This is the policy to protect our Jamaica. As a secure, plan secure Jamaica, the Prime Minister would say. So coastal protection and customs management.
Instead of going into all the details, Dr. Chang, because a lot of the points would have been the similar points to previous security ministers, Robert Montague before, and even into the previous administration. So tell me, what if you were to pick out a point or two that is going to make the distinction in your tenure as security minister as opposed to previous security ministers?
Minister, before you respond, is that so, what Richard is saying?
Right, so I think
have you regurgitated exactly what every security minister has regurgitated?
I don't think I have, but of course certain things are also generic to security. The plans we articulated yesterday, you know, what Minister Montague articulated initially was a kind of broad philosophical framework, the 5-pillar plan which deals with justice, the correctional services, the situational prevention, as well as efficient policing and so forth. That's a broad philosophical framework. What I'm getting, the policy that's emerging from that, and some of the programs emerging out of that. We have never articulated, for example, the issue of coastal protection. Protecting Jamaica coastline. We literally have to build a wall around Jamaica, you know? Not a Trump wall, a real electronic wall to monitor activities going in and out, because the guns are coming in large numbers, and as long as they come in, we may pick up 100, 200 come in, the problem remains the same. And I think this is the first time that systematic attempt is made to really invest in it. Started indeed under Minister Montague's as a minister, but in fact, much of it comes from the Ministry of Defense. Offshore patrol boats were reacquired, which we had lost out on for the JDF. We are now into helicopters and MPs, marine patrol aircraft, coming in this year, and we're looking at coastal radars to cover our coastline. And of course, we have to now work with customs and the security forces to look at our official ports, which are still very leaky. So that's a major issue in terms of creating a long-term resolution to the chronic corrupt criminal activity that goes on.
The institutional corruption.
And it's institutional, and yeah, it's not institutional because illegal activity running through.
You also spoke to getting the guns off the streets, Minister.
Right. So that's come back now. The policing, which is where we look at public order and anti-gang activity and transformation of the police force. We have a police force which has taken a lot of beating in the public eye, and they have lost much of the brand has been battered, if I put it that way. And then the very restoration of credibility. The young men and young women who join the police are just like every other young Jamaican who looking at them, who has an ambition to get up into a profession. And they get in the force and they begin to be viewed almost like a part of the criminal network. Part of that is some of the institutional deficiency in the police force. I referred to one example yesterday, which was simple. The Jamaican police force is operating at 3% gazetted officers, which should be the equivalent of commissioned officers in the army. This is absolutely ridiculous. And I made the point that is a legacy we have inherited, which is totally irrelevant to modern policing. It doesn't afford for proper supervision, accountability, training. It just doesn't allow for an efficient police force. And it creates a lot of tension. There's always quarreling about who gets promoted. There is not enough space.
So they're fighting internally. So while they fight internally,
demotivates everybody.
And there's institutional corruption in the force, which has been aired by every politician. So how are we building up that credibility so that we can get rid of this inform of the dead culture?
Yeah, as I said, and part of it is you lose your best people, because a young man joins, he improves his CV by going to school. See no promotion opportunity, he migrates.
I understand, but how do you, as a minister, change that particular organizational structure within the confines, within the constraints of how government itself operates?
No, the commissioner is very acutely aware of this problem. He has an excellent background in security, understands what has to be done, and he has integrity and the commitment to do it. We have discussed it, and he's going to take the necessary action to correct this. If you get to, you see, that's simply what I talk about officers. If you get to 9%, you immediately have 600 more space for officers at that rank. You may not have enough people to get there, literally.
But Minister, my question earlier went unanswered with regard to the credibility with the public.
This is how you begin to get
You're going to heal the external by healing the internal?
We have to. We have to get it to the point where when we say to the public, you have a police force that is honest, professional, capable, and will protect you. That the results coming from that, they will accept that it is so. Because if the internal is still deficient, then they'll see another political comment.
But Minister,
so we have to make some changes internally.
Just to be clear on the magnitude of this problem, we have 14,000, 14,000 police officers.
Yes, I think it is about 12,000.
12,000 police officers. We have hundreds of police stations across the island.
Yeah, 200, roughly 180.
Right. That would be a major, major challenge for even the most experienced of CEOs in the country.
You are correcting this at once, but it's not as big as as impossible it looks.
It's still 12,000.
Let's look at 12,000 people. But if you begin to look in that team, you'll have the odd ones you have to separate from because of corruption. But if you begin to structure it right, for example, when we say 12,000, 13,000, we don't have an establishment process that the officers can look to begin to have confidence in their own institution. We have to put in an establishment structure that the officers who join at the very youngest age know what you can go into the. If you go into the army, you have a company of roughly 100 soldiers, you have a captain in command, you have 2 lieutenants, you have X numbered warrant officers, you have X number of sergeants. Therefore, when you join them, you know exactly what you're getting into. And you know the duty is clearly defined. Those are specialized otherwise. This doesn't exist in the police force.
Okay, so you're going to give duties, job descriptions basically, and restructure in a almost corporate fashion.
It's a corporate restructuring. And the specialized skills you need in modern police will have to be respected. You have young men who join, have the skills, say, in analytical work, which is modern technology and all that. They get in and they cannot get beyond the corporal stage for 15, 20 years.
But what about salaries, Minister? Because a lot of persons feel that the greatest band-aid, the fixer for the force will be paying more wages, reasonable wages, to our underpaid and overworked complement of officers.
The dysfunction within the structure of force impacts on everything. Salary is not satisfactory, no denying, but it has become the kind of single mode that you can hit on, and we get a response each time through bargaining with your trade union. I think if we get the professional aspect of it fixed, you will have less contention about salary. Because we'll never be able to pay the policemen all their worth in one stage, but they want a reasonable wage. But I come back to the saying, you have highly trained young professionals are join the force. You can, what a lot of the argument though, to get promotion is because it pays more salary.
Right.
If we begin to provide additional space for promotion, those who are bright and capable and have leadership skills will find they have a route to go. We also have to pay respect for the skill sets we want. So even if you don't become a superintendent, there might be areas of the force where the specialized skill, the kind of strategic planning, background work we need now, we'll have young men working. They cannot wait 20 years for promotion. And we have to pay for those skills. We have had people being taken out by the Jamaican private sector up to recently, say in area of cybercrime, electronic fraud activity. And we have been moving, not as aggressive as we want, in getting some skills in that area.
Okay.
They go to work for an institution, and the institution offer them double the salary.
Minister, in rebuilding the force, one of the challenges the force faces in part in rebuilding itself and also rebuilding the confidence that the public will have in it is how does the force, or how will you act as minister to insulate the force from political interference?
Well, first I say that since I'm the minister and for the chief political person to come to, that is out of the book for me altogether. It's a part of when we look at restructuring the force. You had this narrow band to get into promotion, for example. Everybody wants to give a list for promotion because that's a fact, and therefore police officers take a position that is not strictly professional. They're looking to either win the favor of the superintendent or the commissioner or the politician who is in power. That has to go through the door. And officers know they're promoted on the basis of their competence, available posts, and the quality of their leadership. And therefore, we'll be looking also at introducing officer training in the police force. So young policemen can...
But you have officer training there now?
No, not in any systematic way.
But you know, gentlemen...
Officer training, the defense forces send you to college for 2 years. You come back as a lieutenant.
We spent a mighty long time, Minister, on the strategic review, because I know that a big part of your presentation was on strategic review of the ministry and the planks beneath the ministry. However, you also spoke to the fact that the private sector has a renewed energy, almost a renewed spirit with regard to crime fighting and working in tandem with the government.
They want to get in they want to give us support in crime fighting. They believe it's an important part of the plan to go forward as a country in terms of economic growth and development. And as indicated over kind of broad figure, might be high in Jamaica, might be less, that crime costs the average economy. In our situation, high crime is maybe about 5% of your GDP. There's increased security costs. There is some people just don't want to invest, and all kind of factors that impact on productivity and the quality of investment. So the private sector have an interest. What we have to do is work with them how they can interface, because we have to avoid also them getting to the point where the elements of the private sector become favored.
Well, as raised by the commissioner today.
Yes. So we work with them, and I think they are genuine. I don't think they are looking for favors. I think they want to see a genuine effort at ensuring our institutions can work efficiently. We get rid of the corruption, and we have an efficient police force that can deal with both the petty criminal and the organized crime out there.
Go ahead, Richard.
But are you opening up a door, though, Minister, and working with the private sector? Because people perceive the private sector to be a few large companies operating in, or some large companies operating in Jamaica. But the private sector, of course, encompasses everybody in the private enterprise.
We're not going to encourage. We're moving away from a big company going to fix a
But in the cooperation of the police, and to the commissioner's point, for those persons who didn't hear, the commissioner raised a concern about individuals having, based on contributions to the police force, gaining
they're going
some
to fix a police station. So when their vehicles or their personnel pass a station, they get favored treatment.
So part of the challenge, and a big part of your crime plan, as previous crime plans have been, is anti-gang, the focus on the gangs, and anti-gang legislations, operation, procedures, etc., etc. How, again, do you insulate the police force from gangs forming relationships with police officers who police?
That we will deal with. I can't go into all of it, but the corruption, both in the force and outside the force, because the organized gangs are corrupting all elements of the government institution. Police force, customs, maybe some of the revenue section. You know, it spreads across society. I don't think it will appear have been avoided, of course, by a lot, but they have support from lawyers who know what they're doing.
Minister.
So the activity of the police force and MOCA will be designed to begin to to find some of these individuals and lock them away.
Minister, what do you say to persons who say that Jamaica has expended a lot of capital, which we don't have in light of our balance of payments problem, on states of emergency and on zones of special operations, which are said to be short-term solutions? Is it working? Are we spending more than we should?
It's absolutely necessary.
Can we afford to do this for much longer?
You see, in the public sphere, what creates fear and lack of, and undermines confidence is homicides. If we look at all the major crimes, they've been going down to, every time you have a special operation, you do activity, go down. But the public has become very sensitive, and correctly so, more than some of our national leaders. Homicide in Jamaica is at epidemic proportions. We are in a crisis for a country of our size with 1,600 murders. And in order to do some of the fundamental things they've talked about and have them executed, they're going to take time. We can't wave a magic wand and change the police force overnight. In building out and buying the kind of capital equipment we need in terms of capital investment to get the coastal surveillance in order, to get the police itself, intelligence gathering up to scratch, to get its mobility and communication in place, use things like CCTV technology. It takes time.
And money.
And money. And therefore you have to phase that in according to what you can afford. But we had to, in fact, get a hand on some of on the rampant homicide and killing that was taking place in Jamaica. And that's why the SOs and SOs came in.
Minister.
And we are down by, in St. James, we are down by 84 murders since the state of emergency.
Minister, we're going to thank you now so much for coming on CVM Live and sharing with us. And of course, we'll be inviting you back on to have a discussion. But just before we wrap and move on to the next thing, I'm going to share with you a little conversation that the Minister and I had off air. And it's a good thing. The Minister is adamant that we stop playing football, political football with crime. And that is an undertaking of his to